Hey everyone, welcome back to Carthritis. My name's Andrew, my pronouns are he and him, and today we are going to be doing some bug stuff. Got the motor out after the minor inconvenience at the racetrack of the exhaust kind of falling apart. There were a couple other things I wanted to do, and while I had the exhaust off, I figured I might as well yank the motor out and get those things done. So first, I'm going to be taking all this shrouding off, all the tin, getting the flywheel off, and just kind of resealing everything behind that, and with the oil cooler in here. Then, while I've got it all off, I'm going to take the valve covers off here and here and retorque the heads. Hasn't been done, at least on the upper studs here and here, since I built this motor in 2017. So kind of want to get going on that. Running a lot later than I was hoping to today, but it is unbelievably hot in this garage, so kind of took some time and let it cool down here. So yeah, gonna get going on that. So I just got the motor turned around, had it facing the other way to check out the clutch, just in case I needed a new clutch disc. But yeah, now gonna get started taking the fan shroud off to kind of get things going around here. So here we go. So now that all of that is out of the way, back here, got these breather hoses attached to the fan shroud. Gonna go ahead and lift her up. And there she is. The unsurprising amount of crap in here on the pressure side of the oil cooler. But it's actually looking better than I thought it would. Looking nice and dry. So that's a good thing. Doesn't look like there's any leakage from the cooler or from the seals around here. Kind of looks like all the gunk is just kind of dry road grime and crap coming in from here behind the flywheel. So that's actually nice and reassuring. So let's I'm gonna go ahead and get these cylinder tins off. Make things a little easier over here. Okay. So I've gotten about everything off of here. It's all looking pretty good, if rather filthy. Yeah, everything is looking pretty good though so far. This is the most naked I've seen this motor since I built it just about 4 years ago. So pretty happy to see that. Obviously, there's this hole down here that has been letting a lot of clutch dust through. There's a lot of crap in there, mostly on this side, but yeah, all things considered, given what this poor little motor's been through in the last 4 years, I'm actually pretty happy. All, with everything else going on, so gonna pull these valve covers here. Gonna pull those valve covers off, and once I get those off, I'm gonna do one side at a time and make sure the heads are torqued down properly, and then we'll move on to taking the flywheel off back here. So give me just a minute. I'll show you what all that looks like. Okay, so you can't see it super well, but got this valve cover off, and I'm gonna go just triple check the torque on all 8 head studs on this side, and then here in a second I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. So now on this side, to kind of show you a little bit more detail of what I did over here just a couple minutes ago. Got you a little close up. So here we've got the rocker arms and the valve springs, and the valves obviously up here. Down here are the push rods, and then underneath here in the middle, we've got the head studs. And to get to these, to make sure they're tight enough, I need to take the rocker assembly off. These are not super tight, but as you can see, this valve is under a lot of tension. So you got to really carefully loosen each side of the rocker assembly. And it's a good practice to do about 1 turn a side. Just kind of back and forth. Until they start getting really loose. And this one is basically hand tight now, but here on the number 3, this intake valve is still under pretty good amount of tension, so those off now. And now's obviously very good time to take a look at your valve springs, make sure nothing's broken. If it is, it's again usually pretty obvious. Everyone actually looks really good in here, so pretty happy about that. So I'm gonna transfer this socket over the old torque wrench and whip out my phone so I can get the correct torque pattern for all 8 of these. So we're going to start down here, the inner, and I'm going a little harder on these than usual, to about 20 foot-pounds, just because this torque wrench, these are supposed to be around 18 foot-pounds of torque on these head studs, and this torque wrench actually only measures to 20 with about a 2-degree margin of error. So that's going to give me about 18 foot-pounds. Near enough to be comfortable. So little loose there. Perfect there. Little loose there, but not by much. Perfect there. And we move to the outers. That's not great. So, if you'll give me just a second, let's see if I can... There she goes. So that's properly torqued. The good news is the stud is not spinning. That was just a loose nut. So, not great, but it's fixed. It's now torqued. That one's good. That one's good. That one was a little loose, but torqued up very easily. And since that one was loose, I'm going to go back through all 8 of these and just triple check. A lot of turn out of that. Nothing there. Nothing there. Nothing there. Now the main culprit. Torqued. Good there. And a little more turn on that one. I'm looking here at the stud and it's not moving, so what is up with these two? So that's everything torqued there. It's not perfect, but as hot as I've seen this motor get through the gauges, it is remarkably clean in here. All this kind of crap dripping down is just sealant from when I put these heads on. So everything's actually looking pretty good so far. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pull this bail off to kind of make things easier and get the rockers bolted back up, and then on both sides. I'll get the rockers bolted back up on both sides, and then I'm going to spin the motor around and take this flywheel off. So you'll give me just a moment while I do that. We'll make some progress. So I'm here about to try and take the flywheel off. Got the motor spun around, got the rockers all put back together properly. And I realized when I went over to my buddy's shop to borrow his torque multiplier, I did not check to make sure that the little gear was the correct gear for this flywheel. There are 2 different tooth patterns, effectively, for Volkswagen flywheels. There's the earlier 6-volt style, which is a much coarser tooth, and there's the 12-volt. which is what this is. And the gear on that little multiplier tool is for a 6-volt flywheel. So I took a look back in here, and doesn't really seem to be all that bad, so I think I'm just going to leave this as is for the time being. But use this as a lesson. Just remember, always make sure, if you're ever doing this, make sure your torque multiplier tool, this thing, has the correct gear on it. Otherwise, you're going to be very disappointed in yourself. So, having not done that, I'm going to take another little break and tighten up a couple other things that I don't normally get access to. These two exhaust flanges are not great. One of them was missing a bolt missing a nut rather when I pulled the motor out. So I'm gonna get those tightened up. Kind of look everything over back here a little more, and here pretty soon I'm going to adjust the valves and get all the tin back on, and it should be ready to go back in the car. So we'll do that here in just a minute.
All right, now we're filming.
We've got Handsome Wolfgang.
Hello.
And OK Logan. And we are going to work on stabbing this motor back in the car. I will let you know what all I've gotten done on this later. It's not as much as I'd hoped, but c'est la vie, or whatever dumb French thing. So, I'm going to show you how to get a motor in a Volkswagen. So Logan, if you want to... Thank you.
Look at him go.
Industrious little fella.
Now I'm gonna, at the very least, get the 4 main bolts holding the engine into the car tightened up.
Nice.
I'm telling the camera, Wolfgang.
Oh, sorry.
And I'm gonna get at least the 4 main bolts holding the engine in.
Sick.
And then in the morning, put the carburetors and the exhaust on, get everything hooked up, and
Oh, that'd be cool.
get about 7 quarts of oil dumped in this pig, and
Beautiful.
hopefully have a motor and a
Yeah.
car that might even run.
I was acting as a surrogate for the audience. So that when you explain stuff, it makes sense in context.
It's like a laugh track, but for general responses.
Yeah. Or the character that gets transported to the future, and then they have to explain everything too.
Alright, just to show you all a little bit of what I've been doing so far. Got all the oil drained out from the motor, what was left in there, because I usually drain it before I pull the motor out. But if we look down here, you'll see a very dirty external oil sump with the sump plate removed. And for those of you who are not familiar with air-cooled Volkswagens, that's kind of the whole bottom of the engine, what keeps all the oil in. And part of it is the standard oil filter, which is, I'll see right here, it's this little screen. And basically, this sits at the bottom of the motor. It's immersed in oil, and then the oil pump has a little pickup tube that goes into here and pulls the oil through. And it's actually more effective than you might think, to the point where anybody who knows what they're talking about will tell you, if you put an external filter on it, keep this in place. So, kind of interesting. And then here's my little aftermarket sump plate. Needs a little bit more cleaning, but this just bolts up, holds this in place, and it's got a little drain plug in the middle. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on at the moment. Got a few more other things going on that are less easy to film, but yeah, we're gonna keep going and hopefully get this thing done this afternoon. So. Alrighty, so got the exhaust all the way back on. Just need to put the little piece of tin in here, get the distributor on, get the carbs kind of ready to go back on, and then actually be about ready to run after that. So with the carburetors at the workbench, I've got this one right here, I've got that one over there, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be pulling this kind of top plate off and just checking down in here to into the float bowls to make sure there's nothing gunking those up, pulling out the main jets here and the idle jets here and here on the back side of each carburetor, just to kind of make sure that, you know, like I said, there's nothing gunking them up. I know modern gasoline kind of has a tendency to turn to a kind of gel-like substance when it sits for too long. So gonna do that and then put them in the car and hook up the fuel lines and should be just about ready to go. So as you can see, I've also laid down a little bit of extra protection. This workbench is nightmarishly filthy, and when you're working with carburetors, you generally want to try and be as clean as possible. So yeah, just gonna take these main jets out first. Like I said, just want to make sure there's nothing in there gunking them up. And it makes it a little bit easier to get this top plate off when the main jets are out of the way. So far everything looks good. Nothing too filthy there, so it's a good sign. I'm already starting to smell some kind of old gasoline smell from here, so we'll see what they look like, what the float bowls look like, and proceed accordingly. This one would be the right side carburetor, the 1 and 2 cylinder, which is not the one that I heard trying to boil itself out after my drive home from the track last month, so we'll see. A very delicate operation. Float height looks good. Still, nothing's messed up with that. Can blow plenty of fuel through it. Everything else looks good in here, so it is bone dry, which is kind of interesting, but no gel. So that, I think, right there is a win in and of itself. Now I have another can of this stuff around here just to... There are just a couple little pieces of debris that really don't need to be sitting around in here. So I'm gonna drain, so I'll pour that out with little chunks of crap over here in my little drain bucket. And that's better. It's not perfect, but it's better. Like I said, we're working with carburetors. You want to keep, at the very least, the inside as clean as possible. And while I've got this out, I'm going to go ahead and pull these idle jets, because these damn things always clog. These carburetors are patterned after the Weber IDF series. They're actually made by EMPI, called the HPMX, and they're fine. They do the job just as well as real Webers would. And like real Webers, these idle jets, for one reason or another, love to clog themselves up. So that one's good. So, as you can see, the car's back on the ground. Carburetors are back in. Everything's hooked up except the throttle cable and the battery. Throttle cable's easy to do. I have the power to the fuel pump unhooked for the time being, because first I need to crank the engine over and make sure it's got oil going to all the right places. So let me tighten this up really quick. Just like that, and then I'll go plug the battery back in and see if I broke anything. Cranking for oil pressure number 2. So that was quite a bit of cranking, but didn't turn the light off and didn't even register on the gauge, so probably gonna add another maybe half quart and see what it does. Let's crank it over a bit more and see if we get some oil pressure. Take 3. And that's oil pressure. Got the light and the speedometer to go off, and saw the pressure gauge start moving. So I'm going to go ahead and plug the fuel pump in, and we'll see if I can get this thing to fire. So. So there it is, some life at last. I'm going to go ahead and get started on getting the carbs balanced. It's kind of a long process that involves making sure both carburetors are pulling the same amount of air, i.e. they're opening the same amount basically throughout the whole throw of the throttle. So at idle here, part throttle, and then we'll make it down to full. So yeah, gonna get started on that, but sounds pretty good actually. Sounds like it doesn't have any exhaust leaks, which is a relief. So we'll get that done and see y'all in a little bit. Alrighty, well, that's about it. It's tuned up. Got the carbs working. Got them balanced. Timing's good. So I'm gonna go clean up because it is about 91 degrees in here, and I am very sweaty and very dirty. So yeah, gonna go clean up. Do 1 or 2 more things. Just triple check the oil level once it settles, and take it for a little test drive. So let's go see how it does. It's actually running and driving. Good. Stuff's looking good. Alternator's working as it should. That's about correct. That's about right. I'm gonna drive this thing around a little bit more, and I think I might go get myself a beer somewhere. That's kind of all she wrote. We'll see y'all tomorrow at the Bug-In. Hopefully, we'll have that video out within the next couple of days of this one. So we will see you then. Thank you all very much for watching.